Welcome to another Fast Tech video. In this guide, I'm going to be showing you how to fix your PS3 if it's running loud or even turning off as shown here. The PS3 we're going to be working on is a CO.AG 20GB model, but this guide applies to all backwards compatible PS3s. I'm going to be showing you how to take this thing apart, clean the old paste off, replace it with fresh new thermal paste to get your PS3 running like new again. And as always with every Fast Tech video, reassembly is shown in detail. If your PS3 overheats to a point where it turns off, you're going to need to do a delid, which is a little bit more advanced, but our tools make it easy. Available at fasttechstore.com. You can also delid your PS3 for better heat dissipation and for a quieter system. fasttechstore.com carries all PS3 parts. Check the links in the description box and the top comment, and you can use coupon code YouTube for a discount. All of our parts include a lifetime warranty and free worldwide shipping, and your purchase supports this channel. Before you start, check your PS3's model number here and down here. To disassemble the PS3, this seal has to be taken off, and then there's a rubber stop that we must pull out. Then there's a T10H screw that we need to remove. That's a T10H, not a regular T10. This bit is included in the screwdriver we sell. And then we're going to slide this cover off like so. With that cover off, we're going to use our Fast Tech Auto tool, which is going to save us a lot of time when doing electronics disassemblies, and remove these long Phillips screws as shown here. There's 7 in total. With those screws removed, we can lift up the cover like this. Now we got to remove the disk drive, so let's lift it up. And there's a power cable here, and there's a clip here that we must lift up like this. If you had a chrome trim CECHA, C or E console, you would have a memory card reader which has to be removed. There's 2 Phillips screws that hold it in. Now we can lift up the memory card reader and remove the cable by pulling it up. This antenna connector has to be lifted up. Now there are 4 screws on the network module that we must remove to get the network module off. Now this card can be removed by lifting it up, and there's a ribbon cable underneath. There's a locking mechanism that we can lift up like this. Next, there are 5 screws on the power supply that must come out so we can get the PSU out of the way. There's a cable at the front here that we can lift up, and then the power supply can be lifted. There's a pinch connector at the back that can be removed like this. Let's take out some of these dust bunnies from the system. Next, we got to remove this grounding screw. There's a long bolt hiding in here that we must remove. Now the rest of these screws must come out, but do not worry about where each screw goes back in, as I will be showing you that later in the video, because I am a generous and giving person. Now we need to get the hard drive out by lifting up this cover from here, and then there's a blue screw that we must remove. With that screw out, we can slide out the hard drive like so. This one still has the original 20 gig. Now let's pull out this ribbon cable, and now we can pull up the motherboard and heatsink assembly like this. Now we gotta lift up these 2 clips to get the back panel off, like this. Now these 4 Phillips screws must be removed. These hold the heatsink against the motherboard. Now this back plate can be lifted off. Considering this system was never opened before we serviced it, it's got a bunch of dust in it, and it makes sense because this system is from 2006. Let's disconnect the fan cable, unroute it from here, grab all the wires, wiggle, and lift up. Now the heatsink can be pulled off as well. This is the date and time battery. We can pull out the connector like this. Lots of times the bottom part will come off, but that's completely normal considering the system's age. Now we need a size 000 Phillips from our FastTech Pro toolkit to get these 2 screws out. Now we're going to be able to remove this plate off like so. The FastTech Pro toolkit also includes this ESD safe brush, which we're going to use to clean dust off the motherboard. We're going to use paper towels and isopropyl alcohol to wipe off that dried old thermal paste from 2006. We're going to do the same thing on the heatsink. We're going to replace the paste with Arctic MX4. This may come as a surprise to you. I know you weren't expecting this, but this paste is available at fasttechstore.com. Let's put some fresh new paste on the heat spreader. There is a lot of surface area to cover. Some people just put the heatsink on after putting paste like this, but I like to be more thorough, so I'm going to use the applicator that's included when you order this at fasttechstore.com to spread the paste around evenly across the 2 internal heat spreaders. This is not the actual surface of the chip, but rather a copper nickel based IHS that is an interface between the heatsink and the CPU and GPU. If this fails to fix your PS3, you're going to need to remove these internal heat spreaders and replace the paste underneath, which I'll show you later in the video. Use coupon code YouTube when you buy this paste at fasttechstore.com. Your purchase ensures that we continue making these videos. For most people watching this video, replacing the thermal paste the way I demonstrated it here will make the system run quieter and last longer. Replacing the thermal paste not only elongates the life of your PS3, but also makes the system run quieter, as the fan does not have to spin as fast to keep the system running within optimal temperatures. I also did some tests with a thermal camera to get some temperature readings of air coming out of the system, which I'll use for comparisons later when I do a full thermal paste replacement, which involves a D-lid, as in removing the heat spreaders. You should only do a D-lid or an IHS removal if it's absolutely necessary. I am going to be doing it to teach you how to fix your PS3 if it's still overheating, as shown in this example here, where the PS3, as soon as it's turned on, the fan kicks up and then the system starts blinking red, yellow, and then red again, and it turns off. Here's another PS3 that has this problem. As soon as you turn it on, the fan gets really loud. You get this message on screen saying the system has become hot. There's some beeps, some lights, and the system turns off. If your PS3 has these symptoms, it's most likely because the paste on the die, particularly on the cell CPU, has dried up. In the past, this used to be difficult, but our tools make it easy. Available at fasttechstore.com. So let's take apart this perfectly working PS3 so I can demonstrate to you all how to do a D-lid. I must wipe off the paste I applied only a few hours ago, because once the heatsink and the processor or the surface of the IHS has been separated, the paste has to be replaced. Links for this kit are in the pinned comment and the description box. Let's start with the RSX, or the graphics chip, and we're going to stick this side of the GPU delid tool under the RSX heat spreader, like so. It's important that we go in from this side here, otherwise you could damage your RSX. The other side must be on like this. Now we're going to use a hex head, like the one in our FastTech Pro toolkit, or the hex bit that's included when you buy this kit from us, and tighten this screw clockwise. We're going to keep turning this screw until the heat spreader comes off. You do not want to bend the board as you're doing this. Keep tightening it and eventually it'll come off. And now the RSX heat spreader has been successfully removed. No heat necessary. Now it's time to do what used to be difficult, the cell processor. We're going to use our cell delid tool and we're going to insert it at the bottom where there's a gap in the glue. And then we're going to go on the left side, running our blade through the glue. It's important to take your time here, since the cell is virtually impossible to replace. Gotta make a turn here. Now I run my blade upwards, and it glides through easily. Now we got to make a right turn and do the same thing on this side. Another turn has to be made here, and now we're going to run the blade downwards. And now, you guessed it, another turn. And when you get around here with the delid tool, it comes off. At this point, we have both the GPU and the CPU heat spreaders removed. Now we can remove the old thermal paste on the processors using paper towels and isopropyl alcohol. Now we got to clean the old paste off the heat spreaders, the same way we did on the processors, with isopropyl alcohol and paper towels. You can use a utility razor to clean off the old glue from the heat spreader as shown here. A utility razor can also be used to remove the glue from the RSX heat spreader, but I prefer to leave that glue alone, especially on the chip side, as that can be dangerous and there's very little benefit in doing so. For this PS3, we're going to use Arctic MX6. You can also use liquid metal on top of the processors, as the IHS or heat spreaders are made of a copper nickel based material and are therefore compatible with liquid metal. Liquid metal also, surprise surprise, is available at fasttechstore.com. Before applying liquid metal, or as in this case thermal paste, we want to make sure that the surface of the dies or the processors are completely clean. At this stage, we should be able to apply new thermal paste, available in the description box and pinned comment, on top of our processors. At this point, you could put the heat spreaders back on, but because I like to be thorough, I'm going to use an applicator to spread the paste around to make sure that we get an even spread. We can put a little bit of paste in the middle of the heat spreader as demonstrated here. And then we can place the lids back on very carefully as there's no glue holding them on anymore. Now we're going to apply thermal paste on top of the heat spreaders. This side of the IHS can only accept regular thermal paste and never liquid metal, as liquid metal would destroy your PS3's aluminum heatsink. We want to make sure that the entire area of the heat spreader is covered in thermal paste. Now we gotta clean the old paste off the PS3's heatsink. Now this PS3 is ready for reassembly. This plate goes on like this, the side with the ports goes on first. We have to be mindful that there's nothing holding on the heat spreaders anymore and that the IHSs could slip off. Before putting the heatsink on, we want to make sure that the heat spreaders are on correctly. Now that we've made sure of that, let's put the heatsink on, like so. Now let's reconnect the fan connector and tuck the wires in here. We have to flip over the board quickly so that the heat spreaders don't slip out. This back plate goes on like this, the side with the teeth go in first, and then you can pivot the back on. These clamps go in here with these screws. These hold the heatsink against the chips. To ensure even pressure on the CPU and GPU chips, we're going to tighten these screws diagonally and not one at a time. So as you can see here, I go across, back and forth, instead of tightening one and then tightening the others. Now it's time to install this part of the case on that has a serial number, and it goes on like this. These two small Phillips screws go here. Now we can install the motherboard and heatsink assembly in the case like this. Make sure these 2 points are up top, and then you're going to slide the back in if everything's done correctly, like this. This long Phillips screw goes here. This grounding screw goes here. These two Phillips screws go here and here. The power supply is installed like this, and the front connector goes on here. This ribbon cable is supposed to go in here. This is the on-off button. The hard drive is going to go in like this, like a bolt action rifle. Now, there are two types of Phillips screws here. One of them is a plastic thread screw which goes in the motherboard, and the smaller one is for components. So the one that's longer with a plastic thread, this one goes in the following places. These smaller Phillips screws are for the power supply and other components. The same screws go in the network module, which is this component here. There's a ribbon cable that we must connect by pushing it in, and then there's a locking clip that we must push down, like this. And there are 4 screws that hold it in. For non-crippled backwards compatible systems, there's this antenna wire that has to be connected and this memory card reader that has to be installed. Next, we got to install the disk drive by lifting up this clip, inserting the ribbon cable all the way into the blue line and pushing the clip down. And now the power cable goes in like this, black wire facing north. Next, we got to install the top cover. The front goes on first. And then we're going to pivot the case on like this. These screws are for the case. The longer ones go in the following places. The short screw goes in here. Now we're gonna put that T10 security screw in here, put the cover on, and then use a T10H from our FastTech Pro toolkit to tighten it. You want to make sure this screw is fully tight. This rubber stop goes here. This blue screw is for the hard drive. Now let's put in the hard drive cover and the so-called warranty sticker, which has been expired since 2007. Now we're fully reassembled and ready to test. We're going to use the same game, that is MotorStorm, to do a pre and post D-lid comparison, both for noise and temperature. I'm going to use the same vehicle and same map that I used before. My tests concluded that the PS3 runs quieter and conducts more heat away from the system than it did before. My more astutely observing viewers would note that I used Arctic MX4 in my regular thermal paste replacement and Arctic MX6 for my D-lid. Now, there's only about a 1 degree difference in higher temps between those two pastes. So even if we take that 1 degree difference into account, the results are still amazing. Here's a look at the back exhaust vent of the PS3 pre and post D-lid. Before doing the D-lid, the exhaust heat signature is around 45 degrees, and after doing the D-lid, it's around 52 degrees. Now you might think that that's a bad result, but this is a great result, as this means that more heat is being dissipated or conducted away from the CPU and GPU and out of the system. In future videos, I'm going to be doing Syscon temperature tests using jailbroken PS3s for even more accurate data. As you can see, I was able to get this 90 nanometer PS3 running at 67 degrees on both chips. Time for a noise test. The PS3 is running significantly quieter than before. And that concludes another excellent video from FastTech. Please be sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe if it helped you out in any way, shape, or form, as that costs you nothing, but it helps us out a lot. Let's give this rare PS3 CECH V00 console the cleaning it deserves. This channel has been growing tremendously. I get lots of comments, most of them being positive, and as you can see, I respond to almost every single comment. And every once in a while, I'll get a comment complaining that I advertise my business too much. Why are you advertising FastTechStore.com to us? I'm just here for the free guide. I do like the fact that these videos prevent a lot of these consoles from ending up in landfills, and I do save a lot of people money. But that feeling of satisfaction does not pay the bills. What keeps the lights and cameras running and what allows me to make these videos are the sales. So you know what I'm going to say next. FastTechStore.com carries all PS3 parts, and we offer a lifetime warranty and free worldwide shipping. Check the links in the description box and the pinned comment, and use coupon code YouTube for a discount. This is Shiroz from Fast Tech signing out, and I'll see you in the next one.